Hello and welcome to the fourth lesson in our 10-part mini course on GMAT preparation. In this video, I'll be discussing with you all about how to set the time limit for your timed practice session based on the level of difficulty as well as the question format. A quick reminder before we start, this video is a part of a 10-part playlist. In case you came to this video out of order and you haven't seen the videos before this one, I'll put a link here which will take you to the first video in the playlist. Please watch the videos in the order does matter. Every video builds on the ones that came before it, so please watch it in order. The link is right here. When it comes to timed practice and untimed practice, there are a few things that I'd like to clarify before we go deeper into the subject. Untimed versus timed. The first difference is pretty obvious. The difference is in an untimed practice session, no time restriction. In an untimed practice session, you don't put any sort of limitation or restriction on yourself. Say that I will solve these many questions within this much time. Instead, you keep the practice session open. And in a timed practice session, what happens is you put a time limit. The time limit basically imposes a restriction on you, and the restriction is if you don't finish the allotted questions within the allotted time, then all the questions that you did not attempt are just incorrect, and therefore it will bring down your accuracy. That's what I mean by a time session. Another key difference is in an untimed session, the only thing that matters is can you answer the question correctly? Can you answer the question correctly? In a timed session, what matters is can you answer correctly? That is the first part. And on time. There's an added component of answering the question accurately within that time limit. The next difference is when you do untimed practice session, what it reveals is knowledge gap. Knowledge gap is a subset of a learning gap, and we covered the different types of gaps in the session on error log. Please do check that out if you're not sure what this means. An untimed practice session reveals knowledge gap. What that means is if you don't know how to solve a problem, you don't know the concept, you don't know the formula, you don't know the approach, you'll not be able to solve the problem no matter how much time I give you. That's what an untimed practice session reveals. At the same time, if you talk about a timed practice session reveal different types of gaps than knowledge gaps. They can reveal a skill gap, an attention gap, and it can also reveal a mindset gap. Skill gap is you know the formula, you know the subject, you're just not able to finish the calculation on time. Attention is you're not able to maintain focus over the practice duration, and because of that lack of focus, you lose your edge. Mindset again is there is something distracting you, something that is keeping your mind occupied, because of which you're not able to maintain your attention, because of which your skills suffer and your accuracy drops. Therefore, practicing with a time limit will reveal your skill gap, attention gap, and mindset gap. Now that we have covered the differences between untimed and timed practice session, let us look at why does it really matter. Timed sessions are very important because the GMAT is adaptive in nature. Before we get to adaptive, let us look at the questions, the number of questions and the time limit for each section in the GMAT. Quantitative reasoning has 31 questions and you get 62 minutes to answer them. So that gives you around 2 minutes per question average. The verbal reasoning section has 36 questions and 65 minutes. This gives you around 1 minute 48 seconds to answer each question. The integrated reasoning section has 12 questions which you have to do in 30 minutes. So that's 2.5 minutes per question. And finally, the AWA part just has one essay that you have to write, and that is for 30 minutes. Most of the people, what happens is they go by these averages. I can take 2 minutes to solve all the questions in quantitative reasoning. I can take 1 minute 48 seconds to solve all the questions in verbal reasoning. Well, that's not how it works. And it doesn't work that way because GMAT is adaptive. In case you don't know what an adaptive test is, let me tell you a little about how adaptive tests work. The thing about adaptive test is the test tries to guess what is your ability or skill level. This is kind of like the 20 questions that you play where you think about a famous personality and the other person asks you 20 questions to try and guess who that personality is. GMAT algorithm in the same way is trying to guess what is your skill level. So what it does is, if you get a particular question, let's say this is question 1, GMAT will give you a medium level question, and depending on your response, if you answer this question correctly, the next question that you get will be tougher than this one. If you answer this incorrectly, the next question that you get will be easier than this one. Ideally, if you want a high GMAT score, then GMAT should consistently give you hard questions. The number of hard questions that you get has a direct correlation on what your final score is going to be. And if you get, let's say, a score of 730, what that really means in terms of the GMAT algorithm is you can maintain a 60 to 70% accuracy at a question that is at 730 or classified as 730 level of difficulty. That means GMAT feels confident that if it keeps giving you 730 level questions, then you will be able to maintain 60 to 70% accuracy. And to get to this point, GMAT will keep experimenting with questions of various difficulty levels, different topics, in order to arrive at that level where GMAT feels confident that, okay, I've got the level of difficulty where this person can consistently answer 60 to 70% of the answers correctly. What that means for you is you cannot go by these averages. In the starting phases, you will get more easy and medium questions than you will get difficult ones. And as you go to the second half, you will start getting more medium and difficult level questions. Therefore, you should be able to do easy and medium questions sooner than the average speed. And for the difficult questions, you will require a little more time, and that excess time that you require to solve a difficult question, you borrow it from the time that you save from easy and medium questions. So that's how the timing strategy works. Therefore, what you have to understand is the level of difficulty and the question format has a profound impact on how much time you have to give yourself to solve these questions in the time practice session. And I'll just quickly talk about the question format. Problem solving questions versus data sufficiency. In problem solving, the approach is very straightforward. You have some information, and using that information, you have to find something else. And the options are whichever that likely answer is. That's problem solving. In data sufficiency, it's not really that straightforward. You have to try different cases, you have to try different approaches in order to test the sufficiency criteria. Therefore, problem solving questions can be done sooner than data sufficiency questions at the same level of difficulty. For example, if you take a 700 level problem solving question and a 700 level data sufficiency question, you will require more time for the data sufficiency question than you do for the problem solving question. At the same time, if you talk about sentence correction, reading comprehension and critical reasoning, in sentence correction is just one question and options. In critical reasoning, you have to read a passage and answer one question based on that. In reading comprehension, you will get a passage and you'll have to answer 3 to 4 questions based on that passage. And all these different questions take different amount of time. You can solve sentence correction faster than you can solve reading comprehension. So you can give equal weightage to sentence correction and critical reasoning. Reading comprehension, especially at the higher difficulty levels, requires more time than solving sentence correction or CR at the same level. Based on all these different criteria, what I've done is I have created a worksheet, and you can download this worksheet. I've put the link to the worksheet in the comments. It's the first pinned comment. So let me go to the one where we have the time limits. So this is the worksheet, and yes, here we go. Okay. So time restriction by questions and difficulty level for one question. So this is a reference table that tells you based on a difficulty level and the question format, what is the time that you should give yourself for solving one problem. For example, if you're just talking about one question that's of easy difficulty level from, let's say, sentence correction, then you should solve it in less than 45 seconds, which is different from the calculation here where you talk about 1 minute and 48 seconds. Same way, if you are practicing a set of 5 questions, then what I've done is I've just multiplied this value by 5 and created this table. And if you're doing a set of 10 questions, then use this table. If you're doing a set of 4 questions, use this table. 8 questions, use this table. I've given this kind of flexibility so that it works well with whatever your time block is at. For example, if your time block is at 15 minutes, then I would recommend going for 5 questions. If your time block is closer to half an hour, then you can go for 10 questions. And based on the level of difficulty and the question format, you may have to go with a set of 4 or a set of 8 to make your timed practice session fit within your time block. So that's how you use this worksheet, and this worksheet is extremely useful once you start your time practice. And yeah, you can download it. The link is there in the first pinned comment. But the issue is, when do you switch from untimed practice to time practice? At what stage do you feel that, okay, it's the right time to switch from untimed practice to time practice? We'll be talking about all that in the next video. So I'll see you there. Take care.